Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Darklord Yugioh deck profile for February 2020. A lot of you have been requesting that I do a Darklord deck. I've actually wanted to look more into this deck ever since, it first came out in the Destiny Soldiers booster pack, but I never actually got around to making a deck profile for the deck. But it's a really interesting deck. The focus of the Darklord deck is to set up your graveyard with a bunch of different Darklord spell and traps, and then use the effects of the Darklord monsters on your field to shuffle them back into the deck to use those effects, and just keep your opponent at bay by using different spell searches, trap effects to shut down their monsters, and then use the Darklord monsters you have on the field to get out some pretty big summons. Definitely happy with the results, and definitely a fun deck to try if you're looking for something that can definitely get out some pretty big boss monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Darklord monsters, I'm running 3 Darklord Yugioh. With this one, you can discard this card and add 1 Darklord card to draw 2 cards. Quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points, then target 1 Darklord spell, trap in your graveyard, apply that target's effect, then shuffle that target into the deck. You can only use each effect of Darklord Yugioh once per turn, and you can only special summon Darklord Yugioh once per turn. So with this card, you just have more and more setup for your draw power, being able to send this and a Darklord card. It doesn't even have to be a Darklord monster, it can be any of the spells as well, and then you can set them up in the graveyard along with the traps, and then just go for a draw 2, just extending more and more cards in your hand to use for your plays. So you definitely need to run this at 3. Opening this card up early game definitely does come in handy, and then being able to summon this card off of some of the other Darklord cards, or just being able to set it up with some of the other ones like Darklord Contact, definitely does come in handy for special summoning this card out to the field. And I also run 3 Darklord Nastin with this one. You could discard 2 other Darklord cards to special summon this card from your hand. Quick effect, you could pay 1,000 life points and target 1 Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard, apply that target's effect, and then shuffle it into the deck. So the Darklords share this effect to shuffle a Darklord spell or trap back into the deck to apply the effect. And once per turn, you can only special summon Darklord Nastin once per turn with this effect as well. So it limits it for that, but you can still have the Tribute Summon option to get out some of these cards onto the field if you have plenty of Darklord monsters out on the field to use. Nastin is just very, very easy for that special summon, being a 2,600 attack and 2,600 defense monster. Also helps. Same with Yugioh's stats being pretty high for the contrast with its level. Very, very useful, especially. And you definitely want to run 3 of each of these cards because you want to be able to open up a good number of them for your plays. The same goes for Darklord Superbia. When this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target 1 fairy monster in your graveyard except Darklord Superbia and special summon that target. So either one works. By special summoning out these additional Darklord monsters, you just have more and more plays to go off of, being able to summon and then reuse those cards as well for all the different Darklord spell traps we run in the deck. Superbia's special summon is just an added bonus as well. I like to summon this card the majority of the time off of Darklord Contact, just being able to special summon a Darklord from my graveyard after I set up Superbia, and then special summon the card, get an additional special summon, and then just keep on having plays to go off of for that monster. And then for some of the one-ofs, I run 1 Darklord Tezcatlipoca, I believe is how you say its name. If a Darklord monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can discard this card instead. And during either player's turn, you can pay 1,000 life points to target a Darklord spell trap in your graveyard. Apply that target's effect for this card. I only run 1 of this card. You can search it out for the protection effect and then easily special summon it to use the spell trap shuffle effect. I also run 1 Darklord Amdusk. You can discard this card and 1 Darklord card, then target 1 Darklord card in your graveyard, add to your hand. So there's more of the recycle power with this one, and then also having the same shuffle back effect for the Darklord monsters. And 1 Darklord Morningstar, one of the more boss monsters of the deck. It cannot be special summoned. If it's tribute summon, you can special summon Darklord monsters from your hand and or deck up to the number of effect monsters your opponent controls. And when you control another Darklord monster, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. And once per turn, this card, you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of Darklord monsters on the field. And if you do, gain 500 life points for each Darklord card sent to the graveyard by this effect. So having this card set up on your field gives you the life point game, since you can go pretty quickly through your life points just for the different setup for all the paying of your life points for the spell and traps you run in the deck to shuffle back and gain their effects. But one of each of these I feel is all you need. Superbia, Nastin, and Yugioh are just more staple cards for search, special summoning, and then just additional special summoning all together. And then for some of the other, I would say, older school Darklord monsters, I run one Darklord Zerato and one Darklord Desire. More of the offensive cards in the deck. Desire especially. It cannot be special summon. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one fairy type monster, and once per turn you can target one monster your opponent controls. This card loses 1,000 attack, and then you send that target to the graveyard. So cards that can't be, destroyed by battle, especially easy to work with this card. Being also 3,000 attack, you have plenty of attack loss to work with. And Darklord Zerato, if you have 4 more dark monsters with different card names in your graveyard, you can tribute this card by tributing one dark monster, and you can send one dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. Just more and more setup, being able to destroy all their cards, and then being able to send their cards with Darklord Desire for your opponent's monsters can help to get rid of a lot of pesky ones on the field also. And lastly, for one of the more lower level Darklord monsters, I run 3 Darklord Yugioh back. With this one, if it's normal summon or special summon, you can send one Darklord card from your deck to the graveyard. It's just more setup for that. It's just an easy normal summon if you don't have the tribute to go for, or the special summon, just having this card be your target for the normal summon sends a card to your graveyard to help for more of that setup. Especially if you have other cards like Yugioh or Nastin for the special summon. After setting this card up, you can send a specific Darklord card, whether it be a spell or trap, to your graveyard to use with those cards also. And that is it for the monsters. When I move on to the spells, I run 3 Banishment of the Darklord. This is your Searcher. You add one Darklord card from your deck to your hand, except Banishment of the Darklords. You can only activate one Banishment of the Darklords per turn. Just the Searcher for any of the Darklord cards. It doesn't even, limit you to monsters. It can also search out for the Darklord spell or traps. So you definitely need 3 of this. Same with Darklord Contact. This is your special summon card for the graveyard. You special summon one Darklord monster from your graveyard in defense position. You can only activate one Darklord Contact per turn, giving you plenty of resources, especially if you could just see if you discard Yugioh with another one of your Darklords. It could be either one. You have, let's say, Yugioh in your hand and also your Darklord Superbia. If you discard both of these cards for Yugioh's own effect to draw 2 cards, you set them both up in the graveyard, and then you can use Darklord Contact to special summon out Superbia, and then use Superbia's own effect to special summon Yugioh to the field, giving you both the cards and then the contact in the graveyard for more additional special summons later on with these 2 monsters on the field to use as well. And also for a little more draw support, plenty of dark monsters in the deck. So I run 3 Allure of Darkness. As long as you don't eat away some of the resources you regret going through. If you have multiple Yugioh backs in your hand to use with Allure of Darkness, just more and more draw power off of the banish. So very, very useful there. And for some of the one-ups, I run 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Foolish Burial. I thought of Pot of Avarice for the deck off the ban list, but you really want to shuffle them back with their own effects, and, having the monsters in the graveyard is the best place to keep them. You don't really want to shuffle those back into the graveyard with Pot of Avarice, so that's why I decided to keep it out of this version of the deck. And I also, to finish off the spells, 3 Call by the Grave. The biggest thing I actually saw while testing this is people would side out cards for Ghost Spell, stopping my graveyard plays. So aside from cards like, Ash Blossom or a Effect Hailer, it was Ghost Spell I had to look out for the most when I was testing this deck online. But Call by the Grave, like all hand traps, can stop those plays right in its tracks. And then as it for the spells, moving on to the traps, I run 2 the Sanctified Darklord. You send 1 Darklord monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard and negate the effects of 1 effect monster on the field until the end of this turn. If you do gain life points equal to its attack, you can activate 1 the Sanctified Darklord per turn. Another card just to set up in the graveyard, especially then to shuffle it back into the deck to stop an opponent and regain the life points you use, spending all of the 1,000 of each increment of life points to get your effects copied in the graveyard. But Sanctified Darklord just lets you, regain that life, which is very, very useful as well. And I also run 2 Darklord Rebellion. You send 1 Darklord monster from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard, destroy 1 card on the field. You can activate 1 Darklord Rebellion per turn. The send effect for the hand, especially being able to get them in the graveyard to special summon back, very, very useful. And Darklord Rebellion is just another good way to stop cards like are unaffected by monster effects. Having a trap option definitely does come in handy with that, especially. And lastly, for the Darklord traps, I run 2 Darklord Enchantment. You send 1 Darklord monster from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard to take control of 1 face up monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. It doesn't stop it from being able to attack or anything like that, and the fact that it's a trap means that when you're going into battle phase, you can activate this, take one of your opponent's monsters, and then use it for your own resources. And to finish up the traps and the main deck, I'm running 3 Eradicator Epidemic Virus. You tribute 1 dark monster with 2,500 or more attack. Declare 1 type of card, spell, or trap. Look at your opponent's hand. All spell, traps, so they controlled whichever one you declared. And all cards they draw until the end of their 3rd turn after this card's activation. Destroy all cards of the declared type. So if you get this early on and the perfect setup, which is very easy to special summon onto the field, you can just use Eradicator Epidemic Virus. If you know the deck your opponent's using, go from there and then just dwindle away all their resources. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I do run a good amount of rank 10 monsters. I run 1 number 81 and 1 Gustav Max, the burn damage, and then just the additional boss monster. Definitely do come in handy when you can overlay with the level 10 resources. For the rank 8s, I run 1 number 107 and 1 Heretic Sun, Overlord of Heliopolis. For the rank 7 plays, 1 Flare Metal and 1 number 7 Big Eye. For all the different ones, especially Superbia, Nastin, and Ixchel being the same level. You can only special summon once per turn, but when you get the additional special summons stacked up and able to go for the Exceed plays, they definitely do come in handy. And then for the Link monsters, I run 2 Wee Witch's Apprentice, just, with all the dark monsters we run on the deck. This one, boosting up their attacks can really help me, especially when I can get a lot of different Dark Lords out on the field to use. I also run 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Security Dragon, 1 Topologic Tisbana, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Borolo Dragon, and 1 Saryuja to finish off the extra deck. I don't really go into the extra deck much, but when I do, it's mostly for the Exceed plays. It's just nice to have the Link monsters as an added backup option as well for the deck. But that is it for the deck profile. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.